Welcome to Return on Insights, the show where candid conversations with bold founders and leaders spark actionable insights for your business. I'm David Lindover.
And I'm Erin Abatangelo. Every week, we pull back the curtain with leaders who are scaling teams and shaping the future, sharing the insights that create impact far beyond the bottom line.
Discover how high-performing companies build enduring cultures, inspire teams to think bigger, and turn vision into action. If you see storytelling as your strategic advantage, you're in the right place. Welcome to Return on Insights podcast. My name is David Lindover, and I'm your host for today's show. We're joined by Brian Samson, founder of Plugg Technologies, a nearshoring pioneer who's built 3 companies scaling to $4 million in recurring revenue. We're going to want to hear your secret there, Brian. Brian's 20 plus years in recruiting and nearshoring were inspired by his passion for Latin America's talent and a mission to bridge U.S. companies with elite LatAm engineers. He explores how nearshoring talent in Latin America unlocks business agility and cost efficiency while discussing AI's impact on legacy systems integration. Listeners are going to gain practical guidance on navigating macroeconomic trends, building effective engineering teams, and leveraging AI without widespread job disruption. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, David.
My pleasure. My first question is, can you walk us through your nearshoring journey at a high level, and what led you to found 3 successful nearshoring companies, and why 3?
Yeah, it was funny. I didn't see my life going this way at all. I really wanted to be an expat in Asia, and ended up doing a degree with UCLA and National University of Singapore with the whole point of, working in the glittering skylines of Singapore or Shanghai. I had reached out to a guy that I knew that was running a fintech company in Shanghai, and asked him, "Hey, could I come work for you? Fulfilling my expat dreams." And then he asked if I knew Mandarin, and I said no. And he said, "Well, if you have other ideas, let me know." So I came back to him a few weeks later. I had a thesis around fintech companies, had all sorts of capital, great product visions, and agnostic about how the tech was built. I saw this as a big wave happening when I lived in San Francisco as well as New York. So I pitched it to him, and he bought. Ended up raising $2 million. And then I started to build my operating model, and I saw that $2 million getting eaten up very quickly in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I started to look around and looked at Latin America. Years prior, I was a solo backpacker doing hostels, in Buenos Aires, and loved it, thought it was really cool. So I wanted to explore that. And ended up doing a trip, met lawyers, real estate agents, property managers, software developers, and decided that Buenos Aires was where we were going to have our software team. And I still got my expat experience out of it. Went home after that trip and told my wife, okay, so we're going to be expats, just not in Asia. What do you think about Argentina? And she was game. We didn't have kids yet, so we uprooted our lives, lived out of suitcases, moved to Argentina. And that was the start. And, this is a 10-plus year journey now. 3 different companies that are all still alive, still operate. And they all operate on the foundation of nearshoring, and Latin America, in my opinion, is the decade for the 2020s are the decade for Latin America.
Very cool history you've got. Good for you. So just to level set, so define for us the definitions of nearshoring and offshoring, and why same time zone would be critical.
Great question. I think a lot of people are kind of curious. They think it's all offshoring. For me, it's very relative on where you are on planet Earth. Offshoring means there's an ocean in between you. Nearshoring means there's not. So you're on the same time zone. So it's not always in a US-centric world. I know you're in Canada, David.
Yep.
We tend to think as Americans that, everything is based on the dollar and U.S. time zone. But if you happen to be, I mentioned Singapore. Singapore is a developed country. So it's often the developed countries are leveraging developing countries. And it's just a matter of where they are on a time zone. So
Right.
if Singapore were to leverage talent in the Philippines, developing country supporting a developed country on the same time zone, that's nearshoring. Same as Mexico supporting the United States. And if the Philippines were supporting the US, that's offshoring, different time zones. I think time zone really matters. The world has gone through three revolutions, from everyone on site in an office, to COVID, work anywhere, to whoa, we learned some lessons here. We can't just have our team everywhere. This is crazy. We need to do chats on Slack, Zoom, Workday collaboration, jump on a quick call. Otherwise, you lose a whole day. So I think it's really important that people are working on the same time zone, even in different countries. And even though the cost might be a little bit more to nearshore than offshore, the value you create by doing that more than makes up for it.
Yeah, certainly, in certain use cases, my use case included, I experimented with both. The nearshoring was, a far better solution. And it still is a better solution for me. But, every use case is different. So what macroeconomic or geopolitical trends currently influence nearshoring decisions in tech?
Yeah, this has been a very wild time. It doesn't matter where you are on the aisle, if you're pro-Trump, anti-Trump. Trump impacts geopolitics, and there's winners and losers in this administration. China and India are two countries that used to be mega exporters, both physical goods and labor to the U.S. Now they're in the doghouse. So you're seeing a lot of physical good manufacturing moving to Mexico, other regions. And then from just labor, think software developers, virtual assistants, marketing, accounting, finance, white-collar jobs. India is also in the doghouse. A couple different geopolitical maneuvers. They've sided with China, more and more. BRICS, as we know. And then you've seen the H-1B, which is a prime driver of talent, great global talent. Although India, for a long time, has been the number one exporter of H-1B visa candidates. And for those that don't know, it's like a 6 to 7 year process for people with supposedly a specialty skill set that you cannot find in the States. There was low friction to get one. A lot of Indian offshore consulting companies, think Tata, Cognizant, Infosys, were sponsored these. Cost before was $3,000. They more than make up for it by paying below average wage, build them out at a higher rate. You make your margin in the middle. Now all of a sudden, the entry fee for that visa is $100,000. So massive multiply of that fee. So it doesn't make sense for the dime a dozen, the 65,000 Indians that are usually doing brand new H-1B visas every year. That's the quota. At $100,000 price point, you're really only getting the, Shohei Ohtani type of engineers that are doing 10x, unicorn level. So the companies with deep pockets that can afford the best talent anywhere. OpenAI, you're talking, billion-dollar companies, that billion-dollar revenue. NVIDIA, that's no problem. They'll gladly make that investment. But all those other roles that were previously filled by India, no longer due to this geopolitical climate.
So how do you navigate country-specific nuances like talent pool quality, costs, culture, when you're building teams across Latin America?
Yeah, we've been lucky in that not only did I have my expat experience in Argentina, so I saw it firsthand, My business partner, his name is Ruben Santana. He's the president for Plugg, and he's been an expat himself in Monterrey, Mexico. So we've kind of breathed it, lived it, ate the food, dealt with labor strikes, all the pros and the cons, the chaos and the amazingness. So our differentiator and the way we advise our clients is through a lot of firsthand experience. And we have people on the ground in places like Nicaragua, Brazil, Argentina, otherwise. So we can provide a lot of on-the-ground information. And everything from hardware and customs and getting those in and out, because some countries are very heavy protectionist. So you might be surprised, like, wow, that software developer is less expensive than I thought. But getting them that hardware was 4 times more expensive than I thought. So, you have to kind of know the ins and the outs there. Some countries are massive, like Brazil, a tremendous amount of talent, but it's also a huge domestic market, and English fluency is among the lowest out of all the countries, in Latin America, where Argentina, Mexico, Nicaragua is really interesting. Nicaragua happens to be neighbors with Costa Rica, and you might think, oh, they're kind of all the same. Well, Costa Rica is a very developed country in Latin America. It's a great place for tourism, ecotourism, safe, chip manufacturers are there. But you pay for that level of development. So labor is more expensive, supplies are more expensive, equipment's more expensive, real estate's more expensive. Nicaragua, much more volatile, although it's right next door to Costa Rica, much more volatile. Good English speakers, but because of the volatility, the costs are a lot lower. So your temperament and tolerance for risk and volatility will play into that. And these are all things we can advise you on.
Very interesting. So can you explain the double bonus effect for developing nations who are combining AI efficiency with a labor cost arbitrage?
Yeah, I think because we feel in the States that a lot of the dominant AI companies are from the US, OpenAI, ChatGPT, NVIDIA, so on and so forth, Gemini. We think that only Americans and Canadians are the only ones using AI. But that's not the case, not the case at all. Talent is global, AI is global. So you're already seeing this, what I call labor arbitrage, with great talent in Latin America, where you're getting way more value than the price you pay. Now take that same person, say in Mexico, and you give them all the AI tools. So you're already getting, say, like maybe a 3-to-1 return, like a senior level person in Mexico costs the same as a junior person in the States. Now all of a sudden you give that person in Mexico AI tools. Now they're 10x return, versus that person in the States.
Right.
That's what I see as the double bonus arbitrage.
It's great. Beautiful opportunity. Last question, Brian. What are some key lessons and mistakes you've learned as a founder scaling nearshore teams so you can help other entrepreneurs with that info?
Yeah, a lot. I've been lucky to have built 3 different companies, each to $4 million in recurring revenue. But I've also faced serious issues with all 3 companies. Everything from all projects getting shut down during COVID and how am I gonna, take care of my family, to investment issues, to large clients not paying bills, hiring, how come nobody could sell as good as I can as the founder? What's going on here? So a lot of different issues, that I faced. But I think maybe the most important kind of macro entrepreneurial lesson that I've taken to heart for a long time now is that I'm working for my own retirement, not somebody else's. And all of my learnings as an entrepreneur are compounding. So every day that I learn something, I learned this for myself and I apply it to my companies, and this becomes just a giant snowball. So I think, invest in yourself, and it's going to compound at just a phenomenal multiple, more exciting than you could ever dream of.
I like your message, Brian. Thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.